relationship with my people, the Nigerian people, is very good. My relationship with the rulers has always been problematic. Chinua Achebe. Chinua Achebe is arguably the greatest writer Nigeria has ever produced. He believed in his vibrant and progressive people, but acknowledged the issues plaguing his nation: corruption and lack of security. For years, Nigerians have been oppressed by Boko Haram's anti-educational ideology, intimidation tactics, extortion, and physical attacks, which seek to spread terror and confusion in the nation. That is why we have created a unique plan reviewed by experts in the field that can ensure students at Yobe State will experience an education without fear. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Bridget will now be introducing us.
Our team has been working very hard for the past 2 weeks in order to make Yobe State University a safe place for students to learn. Our team includes Taishia, Dalton, Zane, myself, Bridget, and Aditya. Over the past 2 weeks, we have consulted with members of the security team at Yobe State, as well as security experts from the military, FBI, and NSA. The plan we have created helps correct the main problem facing Yobe State: incident response. Currently, there is no training in order for students, faculty, and security staff to identify threats. There is also a lack of training among everyone at the university of what to do in the case of an attack. The security staff does not have a protocol of how to communicate during an attack, and they also do not have the proper equipment. These problems demonstrate just how vulnerable Yobe State is. During the day, the university is very vulnerable at its center, where about 8,000 students and teachers are gathered for classes. At night, the hostels are the most vulnerable part of the university, as many students are sleeping there. Our solution, which will be presented by Dalton, helps make Yobe State a safe place for its students.
Thank you, Bridget. We are excited to share our creative solution now that we've shown you guys the problem. Our solution comes in three parts. First, we created a security plan in order to further help Yobe State Security Company. This includes the active shooter plan and the grid system we created. The second part of the plan is to provide preparation and training. This includes public awareness posters to put up around the school and a training guide for the security staff. The third and final part of our solution introduces the communication protocol. In this, we will use our budget to provide walkie-talkies and contact cards for the students and the security staff. Now Taishia will show our implementation of that plan.
So our implementation plan has 3 steps. The first one being to send the materials that we have created to the security team at Yobe State University. There, they will handle the printing and distribution of our materials across the campus and to the students. The next step is to provide educational and instructional guides which outline how to utilize our materials and what to teach the community so that they can motivate them to speak up and advocate for their safety. And the last step is to explain the active shooter plan in depth so that the security team understands the hierarchy associated with it and how to properly execute it in a real-life scenario. So now we're going to move into the graphic portion of our presentation, and we are going to start with our social awareness program, and then we will move into explaining our grid security plan. So here's a sample social awareness pamphlet that we would provide for the students. It has our motto for the program, see something, say something, and it also has examples of things for the students to look for. We have also created a contact card, which is a place for the phone numbers that the students would need in case of an emergency, and they would have access to this at any time in the day. And now we will have Dalton give a brief overview of our active shooter plan.
Thanks, Taishia. We pulled together our active shooter training into 3 separate parts. The first part is the students' training. It focuses on the students staying calm, taking deep breaths, and finding their quad sector leader in order to follow his instructions. The second part of the active shooter training is the university staff. Their job is to keep their students organized and safe, and also to find the quad sector leader in order to follow his instructions. The third and final part is the security staff training. This focuses on making sure the military is informed of the situation as soon as possible, and also communicating to the other security staff about where the threat is and what to do in order to get the students to safety. Now Bridget will showcase our active shooter poster.
This is an example of a flowchart we have created, which will be posted around Yobe State. In the case of an active shooter, students can look at the flowchart in order to know what to do, so they do not have to make any decisions while in a state of panic. The first thing students should do is stay calm and take deep breaths. Next, they should try to identify an authority figure and listen to their instructions. If they are unable to find an authority figure, they should find out whether the shooting is near them in order to determine if they should try to get away or if they should shelter in place. Next, Aditya will share our active shooter security plan.
As part of our solution, we would like to propose the grid security plan. This plan encompasses the whole campus and makes it easy for guards to communicate and travel in the event of an active shooter, while also keeping students and faculty safe. With this solution, we are able to analyze any imminent threats present on campus and help our security leaders make informed decisions on the safety of students and staff. Our diagram of the campus shows the campus split up into 16 different sectors, ranging from 1A to 4D, which are each manned by a separate sector informant who is ultimately led by 4 separate quad sector leaders. A hierarchy system will be used that will make it easy on our security company to communicate while also being able to watch over their assigned sector. The hierarchy system is dependent on our faculty and students listening to security personnel. Our communication goes both ways using our see something, say something idea and decision making by higher officials. The quad sector leader informs the chief security guard about any threat in their quadrant, and the chief security guard analyzes the threat to communicate back to all the quad sector leaders. The quad sector leader makes a decision on the safety of students and staff, which will then travel to the separate sector informants. The sector informants go to their assigned area and inform the students and staff of the plan. This shows how easy it is for information to flow with the grid security plan using our hierarchy system. A detailed manual on what each person should specifically be doing is attached with our presentation. Once again, I cannot stress the importance of having good communication in order to achieve a successful plan. Now I'll go over how a situation would boil out using the grid security plan. Let's pretend that one day, students and staff were traveling to classes and all of a sudden, they heard shots in sector 1A. A student reported to the nearest sector informant, who would then report it to their quad sector leader. The quad sector leader would let our chief security guard know, who would then try their best to analyze the threat and make sure all other quad sector leaders know the imminent threat's capability. Our quad sector leader in the yellow quadrant would make a decision on whether students and teachers should shelter in place by using our threat analysis and vulnerability chart. They would then tell the 4 informants to go to the different sectors and inform them of the decision. This sort of example shows the effectiveness of this solution and why communication is vital in dealing with an active shooter. Now I'll pass it on to Zane, who will talk about some of the advantages our plan offers.
The primary advantage of the grid system is the adaptability by the university security company. The grid's size, location, and surveillance level can be modified at the security company's preference to accommodate the increase of Boko Haram activity. The system is highly independent from technology, and thus it is very difficult for the Boko Haram to disable by attacking any centralized locations such as a radio or cell phone tower. And furthermore, another large advantage is the fact that a pre-established plan can increase the speed of response and maintain order in the event of an attack. Its greatest advantage, however, is that it serves as an excellent baseline system for further development and further incorporation of technology by the security company of the university. It is, however, a party to many disadvantages as well. It is highly reliant on the handheld radios and walkie-talkies, and if the handheld radios or walkie-talkies are damaged, lost, or otherwise destroyed, it could cause damage to the integrity of the grid system. It is also relatively dangerous for the high-ranking guards, as if any members of the Boko Haram should identify how the grid system works or who's in charge, they may choose to target the quad sector leaders or their families. It is also highly susceptible to pre-planned multi-phased attacks. For example, if the Boko Haram should anticipate the grid system and attack multiple locations at the same time, it could overwhelm the grid system and result in its collapse. The limited number of targets as well is also a disadvantage, as it means that if one quad sector leader should be disabled or his communication should be cut off, it could cause the collapse of the grid sector system. On to Taishia to discuss the funding for our plan.
So as you can see, we have 2 main factors contributing to our overall cost, which are the 4 walkie-talkies that we will purchase for our 4 quad sector leaders, and that costs $876. And then our flyers, which would be posted around the campus, and it would go out to the community members, and that would be $316 for a total of $1,192. And as you can see, our cost is $192 over the prospective budget, but other teams have graciously offered to cover that cost with any funds that they have remaining. And now we will pass it off to Dalton to conclude.
Thank you, Taishia. As a representative of Team Army, we ask that you take into consideration our action plan pertaining to the security of Yobe State University. We feel strongly that every student should have an equal opportunity to discover oneself, one's beliefs, and one's freedoms via education. And that is why we believe that we can change the world. We respectfully ask that you consider all of our solution and help us to implement our plan. Thank you, judges. That's it.
Should I stop sharing?
Yeah, you can go ahead and stop sharing. Time for questions.
All right, guys, thank you very, very much. What we're going to do is add in all the judges, and then they are going to judge you, and then they can ask you a direct question if need be. So we're just going to wait for Bill and Umar to join. Christina, thank you for bringing everybody in. Okay. Fantastic presentation. And we're just going to wait for Umar to become active. Perfect. There's Umar. So, Rusty, what were your thoughts for this presentation?
Well, I thought it was great. I thought that the first impression, the slides, I thought that they popped where they were supposed to pop. I liked the train of thought that you put into focusing on what the problem was, what you could do about the problem, because there were some things that you couldn't do about the problem. Your solutions, I thought, were excellent. I thought that the way you explained them was persuasive. And the only downside from my perspective is that little cursor that was running around the screen and diverting me from where I wanted to be sometimes. But that's a very, very minor technicality that you can work out, most any time in the future. The solutions that you came up with, I thought were good. I thought that they can be implemented by our partners in Nigeria with a minimum amount of training required, and I appreciate the collaboration between the teams and sharing of monies that were not used by other teams to build the things, get the things that you needed. Particularly liked your security awareness plan, because as you know, I like security awareness an awful lot and think that's a key element to protecting any group of people, any company, because the people involved are going to be the ones that are going to see stuff before other people do. And if they know what to do with that, then they're going to be much better off. So overall, excellent job. Thanks very much for letting me watch it. Marshall, back to you.
Thank you, Rusty. Next, we are going to have Bill. Oh, Bill, I'm sorry, you're on mute.
Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Great. I didn't want to start with, can you hear me now? Okay, I feel like I'm on a Verizon commercial. I wanted to start off with, wow, awesome. I've been doing this with Marshall about 4 or 5 years now. I've been judging multiple times. And I'm going to say this is the best presentation I have heard. Marshall might say, okay, Bill, stop exaggerating. It's only one of the top 3 or something out of the maybe 100 we've done. I loved it. It was, you far exceeded any expectations I had in terms of the material, the graphics, and all the stuff you put into this. It was really good. In terms of starting off with the quote, I love that. I don't know whose idea that was, but that was great. Marshall knows I've been working with him, and before working with him, I was working with Carmine on some proposed solutions in Nigeria, with hospitals and stuff, and we ran into some corruption problems. And if you ever read Dr. Thomas Sowell, he said, the number one problem preventing countries from moving forward is corruption, and he's showcased Nigeria. He says it's the best example of corruption. And so you nailed it with that quote and the follow-on stuff. I'll comment on, but all the material from the start to finish was excellent. I want to comment on the diction and body language. Everybody did great. Zane, I don't know what you had, a mic issue or some echo or feedback or something. I couldn't tell what it was. It wasn't your voice. Your voice was fine. Bridget, you started off just a little bit not excited. The first thing, it was great. You presented the material well, but you just didn't have the, I don't think you projected from the diaphragm. And the second time you came on, you presented from the diaphragm. I had no problem hearing you, and it was great. So whatever you changed, keep doing it, okay? But you're all, I'm serious, incredible, awesome, and I think I'm 1 minute over my 2 minutes, right, Marshall?
You're all good, Bill. Everybody, just remember, he said you were the best team that he's heard in a very long time, if ever, and he still critiques you. So just remember, he wants you to get better, even with his compliments. Rick, what do you got?
First, I'm going to make sure I'm off mute. Thanks for that, Phil. So I am going to echo a couple things that Bill and Rusty said. First, this was on par with what I would expect from my peers. And I'm just going to let that sink in for a second. Okay. Clear analysis, really nicely presented overall. I particularly liked the fact that you recognized your resource constraints and that you adapted to that in a couple different ways by modifying your plan to meet the amount of money that you can spend and modifying the money you could spend to meet what you wanted to do. I thought it was really good to put something worth reading on your kind of cover slide, if you will. And I'm going to try and give something valuable to all of you. Everybody had really nice pacing. That's unusual and really, really awesome. Eye contact with the camera. We can tell if you're reading something that's not where the camera is. There's two ways to do that. You can memorize or like be ready to do it without reading, or you can put your notes like a teleprompter up behind your camera. Both of those work. Dalton, you started off a little bit unnatural with emphasizing, just like punchy, it sounded a little bit more like a newscast. You kind of evened that out, and then it came back a little bit at the end, but that's just something to think about. Bridget, I've got nothing to add other than the eye contact and what Bill said. Ditya, I really liked your focus on the bottom line, and I have nothing else to give you. And Zane, it was super, super obvious that you were looking down, much more so than your peers who I think were looking probably at the screen. So overall, fantastic. I went a little bit over too. I've got like 30 minutes of feedback to give you guys on your 10-minute presentation, but we'll have to do that another time.
Thank you, Rick. Umar, please tell us your thoughts.
All right, so first and first, you guys actually did amazing because I went to the university, I saw the structure they had, and what actually makes your presentation more captivating is that you actually look at the basic things they need to do before applying any other thing to secure the people. And you talk about communication, you talk about strategy. But one question that I'm really curious about is that when you give the hierarchy diagram, you talk about the communication between all the sectors. So I'm concerned about the time. So is there any, did you consider like a time that will consume in terms of the communication going back and forth before you can actually secure people? Because when Boko Haram are attacking, they don't actually give you that enough time. So they just keep going with their activities. So you just have to make it very, very flexible in such a way that the communication can actually reach out to the students and the staff so that everyone can go to the safety. But apart from that, I think they're really, really excited looking at your presentation the last time you had a meeting with them, and especially the flyers. This is like the most incredible thing, because there are a lot of students that they don't know how to even reach out to them. Some of them, they actually come late. So if you don't come at the time when they're actually speaking, so that means that student actually missed the information. But giving them the flyers, it's a kind of like making sure everybody understands what is really going on and everybody understands the safety measures. So your solution, it's really, really incredible. And I'm telling you, it's like any other solution that will come after, it's a kind of like supporting your solution. But your solution is actually the base of all. So thank you so much for putting all this hard work.
Thank you. Christina, can you bring on their team lead for 1 second? And Christina, before you do that, everybody, I want to thank you for the amazing presentation. Admissions officers, if you have any questions, it'll be included in the email we send you. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video.